Hey you guys, and welcome back to my channel, and thank you so much for tuning into this new video. I'm here with a video on the oil painting basics, and I want to do a series on how to paint with oil paint. And this first video is going to be about my supplies that I use, my favorite supplies that I prefer to use the most when it comes to oil painting. I know a lot of my followers have reached out to me and asked me to make a video or teach them how to paint. And a lot of my artist followers have reached out to me and asked me tips and advice on how to use oil paint. And I'm here to take the monkey off your back and take the stress off your shoulders of painting or oil painting, because painting honestly is not hard, and I know it's very intimidating, especially oil painting, but it's actually not that hard at all. But yeah, I'm gonna go into the video and I'm gonna talk about all my supplies that I consistently use and supplies that I constantly buy. So let's tune in. Okay, so the first material we're gonna be talking about is obviously our paints. Like, obviously, you can't do a painting without paint, and you definitely can't do oil painting without oil paint. So these are the few brands that I like to use. As you can see, they're different sizes as well, because I feel like I go through a lot of natural tones, like things that I do for flesh tones, a lot faster, so I do have a bigger tube of that. I prefer these because these tend to be less oily, because if you know, the makeup of oil paint is basically pigment and oil. And I find that a lot of the student grade oil paint, they'll be a lot oilier than they need to be. And it's disgusting. It makes a huge mess, and I just hate it. But these are the ones that I use because the consistency is very clean and it's just creamy all throughout. I have Winsor & Newton, Gamblin. I would say out of these that I use, Gamblin is probably my least favorite. I prefer to use Winton. But yeah, but if you can't afford these oil paints, because oil paint does happen to be expensive, if you're just starting out with oil paint, I wouldn't say go out and go to Michael's or go to Blick and immediately get these. You can honestly get like a starter pack of these Blick oil paints. Let me see if it focuses. Focus. Yeah, there. You can go to like Michael's or Blick and get one of the starter packs, like I got this one from. But you can definitely do Artist Loft. I actually hate Artist Loft, so I wouldn't recommend it, but I would prefer you guys to get the Blick starter pack. They're a lot cheaper. I think it's like $40 for like a pack of 12. They're mini tubes, so yeah. I'll definitely put a link of all the supplies I'm mentioning in this video in the description. Okay, that's it for paints. So now brushes. These are the brushes that I prefer to use. Of course we have a flat brush. This is a synthetic brush. I actually really like this brush. I'm gonna turn the brightness down a little bit so you can see better. Yeah, I actually really like this brush. It's very soft. And my honestly favorite brush to paint with, my favorite type of brush to paint with, whether it be oil paint or acrylic, is filbert brushes. I have multiple filberts. I just feel like they blend so nicely. As you can see, they have like a little rounded top. It's just so weird getting this camera to focus. Anywho, you can see that they have this like weird rounded top. It's like starts off square and then it rounds at the top. And there's a small one. As you can see, I use the small one a lot. It's actually damn near worn out, but but I really like filberts. This was a filbert, and I just used it to complete shit. So now it looks like a flat brush, but like I said, filberts are my favorite. And obviously you're gonna need like a small little liner brush, small little round liner brush, so you can get those little tiny fine details. Obviously you're gonna need brushes if you want to paint, but everybody has their own opinion. Everybody has their own, oh good God, it's not focused. Everybody has their own opinion and everybody has their own taste about what kind of brushes they use. So it's definitely a trial and error kind of thing. So you're not necessarily gonna prefer filberts like I do. You're not gonna preferably choose flats. It's everybody's opinion. But like I said, same thing with the paints. You don't have to go out and buy extremely expensive artist quality brushes. Just, I would say, start out with cheap brushes from Michaels. That's the only time I'll recommend Michaels for good brushes. Good cheap brushes, I would say. Get like a really cheap brush. Not extremely cheap, but a good enough brush to where you can paint. Not so cheap to where it feels literally like plastic and the fibers keep shedding into your paint. But get a good enough brush so that you can get a decent feel of how it works and everything. And if you do feel like taking on painting as a really good hobby and something that you really love, then I would say go for the more expensive one. Okay, that's it for brushes. Now we have our medium. This is the GOAT, okay? This is the GOAT. I'm trying to focus it so you can see. I'm guessing the lighting is way too bright for you to see, but this is Liquin by Winsor & Newton. I know a lot of people get intimidated by oils because of this reason. You can't use oil paint without a medium. Mediums are your Liquins, your Gal Kids, your wax, all your linseed oil. Linseed oil is the most famous one that people use. I don't prefer linseed oil because linseed oil will cause your paint to dry for like 2 weeks. Your painting will be drying for 2 weeks and then some. So I use Liquin because Liquin is a really great consistency. It's like a gel consistency and it literally dries in 24 hours. And also linseed oil, I've heard a lot of people say that linseed oil causes yellowing, which I haven't experienced, but I've only used it on like 2 beginner paintings. But Liquin is definitely the GOAT. I've used other mediums. I've used the medium by Gal Kid, by Gal Kid. It's called Gal Kid and it's by Gambling. I've used it. I actually kind of hate it. I mean, I don't hate it. I just don't like it at all. I mean, it's not a gel consistency. It's very loose. And in my opinion, it doesn't change the texture of the oil paint like I want it. I mean, yeah, it does dry faster. It does dry 24 hours like Liquin does. But it doesn't give the oil paint the consistency that I want. It doesn't loosen the oil paint enough for me, even though it's a loose little medium, but Liquin does that for me. It's a gel medium and it loosens the paint just enough for it to be workable, and it's phenomenal. This is like my 5th bottle and it's just great. The only thing I hate about this, like, the company really did a bad one when they did this. Like, it's so hard to open. It's literally the hardest thing. Oh, it opened. But if you talk to any artist who uses this brand of Liquin, they will tell you that this little bugger is extremely hard to open. Like, after you use it a couple times, like, the Liquin will get dry around the edges and it's just be so hard to open. It's been multiple times where I had to buy a completely different tube just because my bottle won't open, but that's neither here nor there. Let's move on to the other materials. So, your next material should be a palette. It should be a palette, and my palette is kind of gross right now because I use it to paint a lot, obviously. It's gross. But you should definitely have a palette. You can definitely, at this part, you can definitely use anything. Literally anything. You can use a piece of paper. I wouldn't recommend using just paper because the paint will seep through it. Terrible idea, actually. You can use cardboard. I've used cardboard before. I've used full paper. Blick actually has this really nice paper palette. I mean, I've only used it once, but a lot of artists use it. I just don't feel like it's very economical because you'd have to constantly buy a paper palette, but nevertheless, it's good. It's really, really good. You can use wood. You can use plastic palettes. Me, I prefer to use glass palettes. Don't ever, ever. This is a pro tip that I won't be telling you other than on this video. Don't ever go into an art store and buy a glass palette. What you do is go to Dollar Tree, and you know everything in Dollar Tree is $1. So you go into Dollar Tree, get you a picture frame, Get you a picture frame for $1, any size you want. Take the glass out, glue some cardboard or some paper to the back, and tape the edges. And there you have it, an artist palette. Wow. And guess how much you spent on it? Less than like $2. Less than $2 you spent on it. Like, see, literally, look, literally I took the paper from inside the frame and just glued it on the back. But yeah, it's definitely not worth it to get a glass palette from the art store, because motherfuckers be like $20, $30, $40 for the same thing I can get at Dollar Tree for literally $1. But yeah, get you a palette. You can't paint without a palette. You can't paint without putting your paint on something and mixing your paint and stuff like that. Okay. Next is this. The jar, honestly, isn't necessary. I like the jar. It's a paintbrush cleaning tank, and it has the coil and my cleaning liquid in it. It has a coil in it, and it's very useful. I've only had it for a few months, probably a year, but the coil is very useful for when you want to clean your brushes, because at least you have that abrasiveness to actually get into your brush and clean. So yeah, this is very good. The tank is filled with the Mona Lisa Mineralist odorless spirits. Mineral, or is it mineralist? It's probably mineral odorless spirits, but that's what the tank is filled with. Just some regular paint thinner, and going about my day. I'm gonna put the link in the description for that. And Gamblin has a thinner too called Gamsol. I honestly it doesn't matter to me which one I use. The Mona Lisa just tends to be a little cheaper, so I just gravitate towards that more. This is like an essential when you're it's not necessary if you're doing paint as just a hobby. It's not necessary at all. But if you are an artist and you want to sell your work and you want your works to last for a long time, this is mandatory. It's mandatory. This is Gamvar by Gamblin. I'm not 100% certain of the other brands out there, but this is the brand I use. This is Varnish. I apologize, guys. My camera cut off and it was just in shambles. Anywho, you can't be an artist and not use Varnish. This is what's gonna cause your painting to last for literally 100 years. Like, literally, it says it. Well, I don't know if it says it on here, but Varnish is known to keep your painting secure for 100 years. Like, you see the Michelangelo paintings and them old school paintings, and you see it pretty effed up, and it's been restored. The only reason that's possible is because of varnish. Varnishing. And I'm pretty sure they didn't use like a high quality or high grade chemical back in those days. They probably used some natural shit. But anywho, this is Gamvar. Buy it, get it. You can get matte, you can get satin, you can get gloss. I prefer my paintings to look a little glossier. I mean, it's not a high gloss. It's not gonna be shiny in your face, but it's mandatory if you're an artist trying to sell your work. Anywho, next product. It's a palette knife. This is mandatory if you want to mix your paints with your palette. It's very straightforward. I've even seen people use this as an art tool, like they use it as a brush, like to brush on the canvas, which is cool. I've done it a couple times. It's cool, especially if you're like using modeling paste, which I'm probably gonna get into in my acrylic video. But yeah, palette knife is necessary because you definitely do not want to mix your paints with your brush. I still do it sometimes. Don't get me wrong, I am terrible at this. It's just, I like mixing my paints with my brush because it just feels a lot more natural to me. But you shouldn't be doing it. It's not something you should be doing. I don't recommend it at all. You're gonna basically F up your brushes. You don't want to F up your brushes, especially if they're expensive. So definitely get you a palette knife. This little doohickey, is a window scraper. If it would close, it's kind of messed up because, you know, artists, we're kind of messy, to say in the least. But this is a window scraper. You can get them at Home Depot for really, really cheap, and it comes like this, and they come with attachments. Different blades, like 5 blades, and it'll be like $10. I don't know if it's still $10. I got it a couple years ago, but this is used to clean your palette. It's used to scrape your palette and clean your palette. See, look at that. Scraping the paint off. This is used to clean your palette. The next thing is a cloth. This is pretty jacked up, but something you can use as like a paper towel. You can use paper towel, you can use cloth. I like to use cloth, but this is just to wipe your brushes off with. Or you can use it for other techniques in your paintings. This is definitely useful because you can wipe off excess paint, you can wipe the paint thinner off your brush, and yeah. And last but not least, it's this. This is brush cleaner. Brush cleaner, yeah. This, I just recently got this like a few months ago. Like this year, I just got this. As you can see, it's like a solid on the inside. It's a solid on the inside, and you just swirl your brush in it. You just wet your brush and you swirl it in it to clean your brush. They also have something called pink soap, which I heard is really, really good. But brush cleaner, I would say if you want your brushes to last, especially your expensive ones, if you got some cheap ass brushes, don't even bother getting this, because what's the point? I mean, it's probably gonna be fucked up whether you clean it or not. But if you do have some expensive brushes and you want them to last and always look pretty, get this. I'm known for messing my brushes up and taking them through hell and back, as you have seen. But this is definitely great. It's really good. It's honestly, the oil paint that stained my brushes over the years, it's actually starting to lift. And it's actually kind of crazy to me, but yeah, definitely get this. So yeah, that's all of my materials that I use. If I did forget anything, I'm definitely gonna put it into the description box below. So you guys can see them. And I'm just gonna do a final spread of everything that I mentioned. So yeah, go out and get these. You can honestly get these from any art store. I would most recommend Blick. I've never been to Jerry's Artarama. If you're a beginner, if you're a beginner, you can go to Michael's, but Michael's can be really expensive for no reason. Like as an artist, as a beginning artist, I love to go to Michael's. Michael's was my happy place. And I had a membership, I had rewards, I had all these coupons. And then I finally went to Blick. Then I finally went to Blick. And Blick, everything in Blick was literally half the price. Michael's literally jacks up the price so high so you can use their 50% off one regular priced item coupon, or 20% off your entire cart, or something like that. They jack the prices so high just so you can use their stanky little coupons. So I would most recommend to go to Blick because Blick is a lot cheaper. Oh, canvases. Let's talk about canvases really quick while I end off this video. Canvases are an essential. Because what are you going to paint on, sis? Honey, what are you going to paint on? You're not going to paint on nothing if you ain't got nothing to paint on. You can either paint on canvas or wood, but as a beginner, I would suggest you get canvas. You can get canvas really, really cheap at Michael's. After I was just talking about bashing Michael's. But you can get canvas really, really cheap at Michael's. Michael's does phenomenal sales on their canvases. I forgot how the sales be going, but they have phenomenal sales on their canvases. I remember I got like a big ass canvas for like $4 at Michael's, whereas Blick has higher quality canvases for a lot more money. And they're not like hundreds of dollars. They're like $20-$30, but if you're a beginner, I would suggest you go to Michael's because you can get a lot more bang for your buck. Well, can you? It's a lot cheaper though. Nevertheless, go to Michael's if you're a beginner. If you're well seasoned, go to Blick. And as an artist, I prefer to get the gallery profile because I'm an artist who sells my work and I want my art to be in a gallery. So I get gallery profile, get the one that's like 3/4 of an inch thick. And I just feel like Blick canvases are a lot sturdier. I don't like Michael's canvases. Anyhow, this is not a Michael's bashing video, but nevertheless, thank you for watching my video. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe. Yeah, I really hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you tune in for my next video to see how to paint with oil paint. And further down this series, be sure to tune into my other videos of my Missy Elliott time lapse and my relax with me video on my other videos. And yeah, just fuck with me. Thank you guys. Bye.